I'm happy to take questions. This is break time for the...
No, it's not break time. We have to continue with the other, but we can take a couple of questions.
Oh, sorry, I targeted an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry if I overwent. I thought that was polite. Are there questions or comments? Yes.
Maybe some question. You mentioned the watch time. What about, recommendation? What about sharing links for the guys? All the related metrics. Do you use those ones?
The question is, are there related metrics, recommendations, subscriptions, sharing, likes? Do people look at those? And YouTube as an organization does look at those. But from a video media playback quality of experience standpoint, I don't look at those. That's an interesting question. Do you think that there's a correlation between quality of media and what things that people advocate for? That's a great question. Thank you. Do you have an opinion? Do you think that there's a natural relationship?
I assume that they probably are very correlated, but it would just nice to see if they are different. If they are different, why they different.
So we did some tests with the YouTube player and compared it also to others, and then we saw that in some cases you don't even switch up to the highest resolution bitrate, although the bandwidth is available. So maybe you can say a few words about that, like when you switch up to a higher bitrate when the bandwidth is available.
The question is, a researcher was looking at AVR algorithms in multiple players and noticed that there were times when the bandwidth seemed to be available and a YouTube player didn't switch up. And for this I can think of two possible answers. Well, I guess I can think of three. One is that there could be a bug, in which case it's never wrong to contact us and say, we think your thing is broken, because things are sometimes broken. Another would be that in YouTube's AVR algorithm, it's constrained by viewport. So if your network is awesome, but your viewport is small, we're not going to adapt up data rates and then scale down. Also, there are some circumstances, although they're not as common this season, where certain formats of videos are not available unintentionally, either because of the way they're transcoded or because of the way that they're stored. So that, I guess that sort of falls on the sometimes there's a bug category, but that's less of an AVR bug and more of a format availability bug. Is there something more systematic that you would see? Do you think there are aspects of the algorithm that are ignoring meaningful measurements?
But it could be also the network cost, because it costs more to transport more data. But it's not worth transporting it.
That's a great insight. The question is, could it be network cost? And to my knowledge, there's nothing about any of the client side of YouTube AVR that considers like the Google company network cost. Really, all the AVR algorithms you see in YouTube players were essentially like validated in the lab and in production to like increase watch time. If you make it's not always the case, but broadly speaking, if you make really wasteful choices to the system, that users don't really tend to like it either. So it's not in perfect harmony, but they commonly go together. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, sure. I have a follow-up on the encoding. Do you have any different encoding settings depending on the content? Like, for example, I don't know, live sports, whatever.
The question is, are there different encoding settings depending on the content? And I don't think there are different settings based on content type, but I do, and this is not my area of expertise, again, in the same way that I look to experts for quality of experience, I depend upon them. I also depend upon experts in like video encoding on the user. But from my understanding, videos are analyzed for their structural properties and not based on content when it comes to transcoding. Do you think that there are natural aspects of content relevant to video transcoding that don't just passively represent themselves as structural properties of the video? Like I'm thinking, because I think sports is one of the most common things, but I feel like if you're on that football pitch and you see all that green, like you don't even know it's sports. Like if you see all that green, and that's where the encoding opportunity is, right? So I'm interested in what's meaningful about content that doesn't show in terms of structure. If that question makes sense.
Could you expand on the use of watch time for evaluation? And I'm thinking of two things. So I think you had an example where you sort of established
So can I say back what I think the questions are? One would be, is the question is it about sample size or sample selection?
Well,
Is that fair?
watch time.
Are you asking, like, looking at watch time, what, am I stuck on the sample size thing? Is the question, what kind of sample size would you need in order to have a watch time difference that you could trust?
Yeah, that could be part of it. But also, I mean, as you were talking about, there's a number of things, conditions which may vary over time.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
so I mean, so what do you generally believe that you eliminate this with larger sample size?
So maybe your question is more about like the statistical aspects of experiment health. Is it fair to say that,
Yeah.
so if you're measuring watch time, how do you know that you are trusting what you're measuring, and then what do you do to your experiments in order to have confidence that they work? And I would say going multiple days is key. YouTube is extremely trend-driven and content-driven. So I mean, you've seen how a lot of people watch YouTube and there are like a lot of different videos, but localized patterns vary based on content, right? When things are hot, and that's what people are watching. Those Eurovision videos are really big now, but 6 months from now, I don't think they will be probably as popular, right? And so you need to run multiple days, and for codec experiments, in my opinion, you need to run in multiple clients in order to have some confidence that your sample is representative. And statistical methods are applied to in an attempt to have confidence intervals, statistical level confidence that what's being measured is accurate. So does that, have I answered your question on the watch time side? In general, the sample sizes that I typically work in, if the watch time changes less than 1%, it's probably within the noise. Is that answering your question?
There's probably much more to it.
You also asked a question whether we would do things more than A/B.
Yeah.
And I personally have an interest in machine learning based approaches to this sort of analysis. Although for me, this is much more of a question than an answer. I have my intellectual fantasy about this is that one can have a handful of factors and put them in the magic soup and shake them out and say, this combination of factors helps this type of user in this context have this like watch time. But in practice, this has turned out to be, at least so far, a really interesting sort of postgraduate research exercise and hasn't really shaken out in stuff that like someone like me can use. Whereas A/B experiments, one of the benefits they get is that even though they're complicated and take months to do, that they're comparatively simple and they're comparatively knowable. And they're sort of externally, validating. Like you actually can try it yourself. You can know people who tried it. You can go on Reddit and see who is complaining about your experiment or who is praising it. And if you're doing multi-factor analysis, I think you're a little bit farther away from things that are directly knowable. I don't. And this is a personal opinion of mine. This is not. I don't think this is indicative of the way that even the community that I work in thinks of as a whole.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.